If you could say one thing to your dad, what would that be?
You gave me everything and I'll never be able to pay you back. And I would tell him, hey, I'll never be able, but I keep on going after that quest. What is up, everybody? It's Ed Gow Jr. from Dad Central. And
Drew Solon from Dad Central.
all right, so we're going to welcome you today to a special Father's Day edition of Dad Central. And we're going to be reflecting on some personal lessons from our fathers, big or small as they are, and how they shaped our roles as dads and male caregivers. So we're going to be talking today about real stories, personal reflections, legacy moments, and takeaways for all dads. What's up for today, Drew? How you doing?
I'm doing good. I am very busy as we're heading into this next season, and we got a lot of activities with the kids. So I am learning to prioritize. I'm learning to care for myself, and I'm learning to implement some of hopefully what we'll talk about in terms of the lessons that we've learned from our fathers. So, yeah, and just feeling pretty grateful, pretty blessed for the opportunity to be a dad and this time, because it's so meaningful and important, and to be able to have it is really cool. So I just can tell I'm in a bit of a reflective mood. So I'm looking forward to the conversation. Now, how are you?
Excellent. Outstanding. Was able, as we're recording today, to mow the lawn because you never know when we're going to get another day of sunshine in this world today. So I was able to mow the lawn and cut the hedge. So I said, good, I got some fresh air, got some exercise, and it can rain later on. I don't care. So that's my attitude. So as always, our show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man, because when men care for themselves and others, there is positive impact. So let's kick it off first things first with our first segment. What's one lesson you still carry from your dad, Drew?
Well, this is interesting because I have my biological father and then I have my stepdad. And I actually think I have lessons from both, but I don't want to. Anyway, so I'll do the best I can to offer two quick lessons, one from each of them. I'll start with my biological father. So I don't know if I've seen anyone work as hard as he does. He is now 78 or 79. He's still working his trade as he can when he wants to, and he loves it though. He loves it, but at the same time, I know it wears on him physically. But so I think the lesson I take from my biological father is, a willingness to put in the work, and when you commit to something, to follow through. Just as I've watched his example of building his business, or learning his trade, and he was always very skilled, right? He didn't take shortcuts. He didn't compromise in the finished quality of the product that he was producing, and I think that's what people loved about the work that he produced. So to me, I think I have watched and admired and have internalized that. From my stepdad, the lesson that really resonates with me is, and it may tie into our next segment, but it's his steadfast, quiet, always being there no matter what, right? He was like this positive influence for me, from the time he came into my life when I was about probably 9, and still is to this day. When we had another conversation this morning just about this weekend and the busyness, and how he is still there for me and for our family at this stage. So for me, that lesson is dependability, and a willingness to serve. And so to me, those are two great lessons I've learned from the father figures, my dad and my stepdad. How about you, Ed? What are you taking?
there's so many, and they grow every day. Because with the journey with my dad, he is sharing more and more as we go along in our relationship. Two quick ones for myself that he, like your father and your stepfather, worked very hard, but he's been retired for a number of years. So I was happy to see that. But the thing is, he worked 38 years as a public school teacher in the same public school. When he retired, he had over 600 sick days. He didn't take a day off. And it was just really amazing. And a number of years ago, I said, Dad, like, how did you do it? Like, you got up for basically 38 years, went to the same place, traveled through downtown Toronto traffic, and made it home alive in downtown Toronto traffic. I said, what kept you going? He said, I had to take care of my kids. No more, no less. That really just showed me the importance of family. And another thing too is um, he said to me at a very young age, he said, son, I don't care if you're a beggar in the street, always treat people the best you can with manners and respect. And there's so many other messages, but those things really stood out. There's just one of many things, or two of many things that stood out with me in the manners and respect. And I try to do my best in regards to that. And also to the dedication to taking care of the family. It just, and he cares more about the family now than ever. So it just that, that steadiness, consistently family. Now, again, when he was working, he couldn't take care of the family as much as he can now, but he's become more um, thought wise, action wise, family oriented, especially since he's retired. Now, he's been retired for about 20 years now. So those things were there when he was working, and now when he's in his retirement is still steadfast.
Yeah. Wonderful example. And love the comment about treating others with respect. I don't think you said honor, but I'll add that in there, with respect and honor.
Yeah. Yeah. Manners and respect,
Yeah.
or is one of our relatives would say, live good with people. And that doesn't
Mhm.
mean live out, just living good with people. That, that was really a huge message that he still says today. And remember, son, live good with people, live good with people.
Mhm.
He reinforces that all the time with me. So
Yeah. Great message.
that is, yeah, and it just, I try as much as possible to reflect that in my own personal values and the way I deal with people. So
Right.
let's move into our next segment. And again, I think it intertwines the way he showed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
as I alluded to about my stepdad, he showed up quietly, but he always showed up. Whatever sport I was playing, all through high school and beyond, whatever event I might have had other than sports, he was always there. And all usually with an affirming word, or a loving, pat on the shoulder, or tussle of my hair, or just encouraging me, if I wasn't feeling as positive about how things went or what was going on. So to me, that always being there, knowing that he was there, I don't think I ever consciously thought about it or reflected on it, but I know that it definitely mattered to me. And again, this was my stepdad primarily. And so that for me was really important, and something that I apply as best as I can. Now, I have 5 children, and they're getting busy with all their different activities. So this summer is going to be interesting as we try and navigate people going in multiple different directions. You can't divide yourself into multiple spots. So it'll be interesting how we navigate that. But that's a great example of how my stepdad really showed up for me. How about you? How did your dad show up for you?
Well, piggybacking on what I said earlier on about, him work, 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 provider, provider, provider. It's been a and it's still evolving because in my younger days, he would show up when it came to education, education, education. He really, really drove he would always show up when it came to education. There were other areas that I wish he could fill my cup in that he didn't in regards to showing up. But as but there's I think I may have shared it or not have shared it, but that sort of started to flip a little bit after he overcame a four bypass heart operation. He had a stroke, and then he started showing up in emotional ways in my life. And sometimes you have something that seemed not good, but good came out of that. That now he is showing up in every way. Like I run my own business. He's always asking, "How's your business doing? Is there anything I can help you with? Anything I help?" I In my earlier days when I had hair, it would be with my, "How's your education doing?" Now is, "How are you and your business doing?" So he's always showed up, but it has evolved over the years in showing up. Now he wants to make sure I'm showing up for myself instead of I'm showing up with my marks. So it's really evolved and changed over the years, and it's been absolutely fantastic to see that relationship develop over the years. And he's never missed anything of importance. He is always there checking in, and you know, him and I have the same name, so I'm showing up wherever he is, and he's showing up wherever I am. So
Mm,
I leave that as I leave that as an example.
nice. That's a great example. So, if you could say one thing to your dad, what would that be?
Ha! That's a tough
Yeah,
one.
if you could
There's
say
so
one thing to him
many.
today,
One
what would
thing,
that be?
you done good.
Mm,
That's it. I could give
nice.
you another one. I would say
Mm,
another one I could say is, you gave me everything, and I'll never be able to pay you back
mm, yeah, that's
fully.
interesting. Yeah,
But I'm always in that quest, and I always tell them, "Hey, I'll never be able," but I keep on going after that quest. How about you?
yeah, yeah. So, well, again, with this dynamic of my dad and my stepdad, oh, it's hard to determine, what's the one message that. So, if I could say to my, I'll start with my stepdad. If I today, I would tell him one, I love you and I'm grateful for all that you've done and continue to do for me and in support of my mom. It has been a huge blessing in my life. So that's what I'd say to my stepdad. To my dad, I would say, um, I would thank him too for who he is and the gifts that he's given me. When I say gifts, I don't mean monetary gifts. I mean the gifts of just the genetic gifts that have been part of being his son, as well as the example I mentioned at the beginning, the gift of setting the standard of how you serve others and how you use your talents to the best of your ability. I feel like that's a huge gift that he's given me. And I'm truly grateful for it because I feel like it's a big part of who I am. And I know that comes from him. I mean, not only him, but certainly from him. So I think those are the overwhelming theme that I have is gratitude for them and what they've given me and I'm taken from them.
So as we start wrapping up today, what are we passing on? What lessons and legacies are we passing on from our dads to the next generation?
Yeah. That's a good question. So for me, I'm not sure if I've thought enough about this to be as intentional as I'd like to be. And if I'm being real, there's parts of what I've experienced that I actually wanted to change, right? I wanted to break some of the cycles that were part of my experience growing up. But I feel like it aligns with what I've shared so far today. Is that I think the values that I have seen in action from both my stepdad and my dad are what I model for my children and what I hope they take away. And I really do believe the values of consistent show and being dependable, being responsible, being accountable. Um, those to me are really the character traits that I hope that I pass on to my children and that they can show up in this world because I believe, I mean, I hope this doesn't come across as too critical or cynical or judgmental, but I do believe we really see a lack of character and integrity in today's world. And to me, that is really foundational to who I am and what I want to see my children um, begin to model and demonstrate as they grow and become their own people. So for me, it's really important. I feel like that's a great foundation. Like the foundation of a strong, solid character is what I hope to pass on. How about you, Ed?
Well, we could have four parts to this, both of us, I can tell, but we'll keep it short. The whole area of service.
Hmm.
And, again, 38 years. Another thing my dad, and so I'll keep the story very short. He paid for a young man who he met in Jamaica many years ago, whose family was living in absolute poverty. He paid for this young man to become a lawyer. And so how he has not only been a father biologically to our family, but to people he's not related to biologically. That is just a huge lesson that his fatherly influence goes beyond our family. I pray that I even have a tenth of that influence with people in that regards and his manners and respect. That has just been really large in my walk and even from a child that is just born to the oldest person I know, having those values and standards, try to emulate them as best as I can in whatever situation I find myself in.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
would
Thanks for
say
sharing that, Ed.
those things. Yeah. So let's do some reflection here. So we talked today on our special Father's Day edition about one lesson we still carry, the way our dads showed up. We also talked about what's that one thing you could say to your dad? And then finally, what we're passing on. So we have to realize that our fathers shaped us in ways we're still discovering. Drew and myself, and I'm sure many others who are either listening or watching this, it's still evolving. And let's call it out that today is the perfect day to recognize the man who helped you become the way you are, or who you are. Sorry. So our challenge is to reach out to your dad or a father figure and share one lesson that changed you. Drew, how we want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I want to add one final point because I think that there are listeners that maybe they didn't have the greatest relationship with their father or currently don't.
Mhm.
And this idea or thought of reaching out to them fills them with maybe just not a good taste in their mouth. And all I want to say to you is that if that's you listening today, one, you're not alone. I can certainly understand and relate to that. But I want you to think about the importance and power of choosing to make forgiveness an important part of how you might approach this Father's Day, especially when it comes to your own children and the difference freeing yourself from some of the past hurts or the disappointments or the pain that might be associated with your own relationship with your father, knowing that that can actually help you with your children and the relationships with them. So we obviously don't. This could be a whole show on its own. We've done a podcast with John Smith Baker about the importance. Are you man enough to forgive? But I just want you to know that it's okay. And if you're not able to take this call to action today because it's not the right time, no problem. But I encourage you to listen to our podcast with John Smith Baker, and then make some time to reflect on how that might be able to serve your fatherhood journey.
That's so true. And I think we may have to do a session on our own about that, because there was a period in my journey that I was in that headspace,
Hmm.
and that was in my heart. So I think that'd be a really good episode to do. And I'm actually assisting a father right now that's in that situation with his father, to the point is he doesn't want to talk to him again.
Right.
So it can be so impactful. Well, that is it for another episode today. We want to say thank you for taking the most important thing in your life, your time. But Drew, you have a resource for our people who are listening or watching.
Yeah, absolutely. As we celebrate Father's Day, and we've been re-engaging people in our Dad Mentor membership community. It's a community that comes together, that learns from each other and supports each other as fathers. And we have our Dad's Roadmap, which is our 5 stages to go from feeling overwhelmed, stressed, and stuck as a dad to becoming much more confident, calm, and really connected, becoming that dad you want to be. And so we are closing down the Dad Mentor membership because we're in the process of revamping it and relaunching it in a new and an exciting and an impactful. We're making it that much better and that much more accessible for even more people. So I want you to know that this is the time. If you haven't thought about, or if you thought about but haven't joined yet, now is the time to join Dad Mentor, because we're closing it down and then we're going to relaunch it and make it even better. And now is the time to get in before we relaunch it at that much higher price point, because of the tremendous value that we provide. So Dad Mentor, take a look.
Excellent. Well, as always, as I was saying before, thank you for giving us the most important thing, your time to spend with us while you're listening to this. And as always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace, and we'll chat with you soon. Be well.